So you want a Yamaha R1, and that tells me something very important about you. You're not here for attention, because if you were, this isn't the bike you'd be looking at. You'd be on the BMW Motorrad configurator right now, speccing out an S1000RR with carbon wheels and M Sport batteries. Or you'd be convincing yourself that a Panigale V4 is somehow an investment. Or telling your friends that an RSV4 is basically a MotoGP bike for the streets. But the R1, it's not really playing that game anymore. It's not the newest, the most powerful, nor is it packed with the most revolutionary new features every couple of years. And yet, for a lot of riders, it's the one that makes the most sense. The R1 isn't built for people who want to look fast online. It's built for people who are actually going to ride it fast. The platform has been refined and proven over a decade now. It's predictable, understood, and delivers exactly what you'd expect. Sure, you could argue that it's a little last gen, I would say that myself too, or you could argue that it is actually fully baked. Because free of comparisons, the R1 still delivers one of the most satisfying riding experiences you can get out of a leader bike. We're not discussing why the R1 is the best superbike on sale today, because frankly, it's not. Instead, we're asking why the R1 is the leader bike you'll actually use the most. Let's start talking about it. Okay, before you start watching Valentino Rossi highlight clips or sending offers on used R1s with full titanium exhausts, we need to discuss this bike a little further, because if you're expecting the latest and greatest, the most cutting-edge superbike experience, you're in the wrong place. As we know it, the modern R1 is basically the same motorcycle since 2015. And yeah, as much as it pains me to say, that was 11 years ago. Don't you remember how much simpler life was back then? All we were concerned with was figuring out whether the dress was white and gold or blue and black. Take me back, easier times. Things were pretty sweet back then for the R1 too. You could say it was at its cultural peak, because it hasn't meaningfully changed since then. It has the same frame, the same engine, the same tech, and in most places, that would be a letdown. As for the R1, that's kind of the whole point. The R1 got it very right, very early. The 2015 R1 was a massive leap forward for the category. It brought a 6-axis IMU, which was a first for the category back then. I know, kind of hard to believe. Advanced rider aids, a new chassis, and an updated version of the famous Crossplane Inline 4, pushing out damn near 200 horsepower. Back then, it was cutting edge. Today, it's familiar, yet still correct. Now, the engine is what makes the R1 so special. Much like every other Yamaha, you're pretty much just buying it because of that engine. The Crossplane Inline 4 that relies on a 270-degree firing order is one of the most unique engines in motorcycling. Those uneven power pulses results in improved torque and power delivery and a remarkable exhaust note. It still gives me chills when I hear an R1 at full sing on a racetrack. They sound amazing. It doesn't have the same smooth, linear top-end scream of a normal inline 4. Instead, it barks and burbles almost like a V4. The firing order reduces inertial torque in the engine, and it's more effective with how power is put down at the rear tire. Now, while the average street squid might not notice the difference in performance, everyone and their mother will agree it is the best-sounding inline 4 to ever live in a motorcycle. That's just an objective truth at this point. Character is what has carried this motorcycle for almost 20 years. It might not be the fastest leader bike anymore, and they don't hold the world superbike rankings that Ducati does, but it provides a riding experience that's more interesting than your Gixxer 1000s or ZX10s, but without compromising Japanese reliability and ease of ownership. And sure, it's a little last gen, but that's just because they got it right the first time. Its long-proven stature is more of a feature than a flaw. It's why you'll see serious track day guys or club racers running R1s. They're reliable, easy to upgrade for track duty, and will run for tens of thousands of miles with ease. Here in Texas, my local organization is CMRA, and all the really fast guys run R1s. And there's a reason for that. We have finally ended the streak of piddly middleweight sport bike giveaways on YamiNoob.co. 2026 is feeling different because I've got this fire-breathing 175 horsepower V4 motorcycle right here up for grabs on YamiNoob.co. Click the link down below and support the show. Become a member today for your best chance to win this machine and have it show up
in your driveway. You're not gonna wanna miss it. This is one spicy meatball, and I hope it goes to one of you watching right now. Click the link and check it out. Now back to the show.
But if this bike has been the same for over a decade, which one are you actually supposed to buy? Now, let's get this out of the way first. You want a 2009 plus model year bike. Like I said, the cross-plane design is a crucial component in the R1's secret sauce. Without the CP4, a mid-2000s R1 is just another analog piss missile, which, that's cool, but I don't think that's why you're really doing this, right? Just get a trailer park Gixxer at that point and call it a day. The first gen R1 has the raw, unfiltered energy that modern bikes don't really have anymore. But at this point, in 2026, they're old, beaten on, ridden hard, and put away wet. Rarely, if ever, will you find a clean example, because these bikes live hard lives. Redline wheelies at highway speeds, 7 owners, 50 track days. Unless you're a glutton for punishment or you really know what you're getting into, just skip that generation entirely. Then you've got the 2009 to 2014 generation. This is an interesting time for this motorcycle. That bug-eye light, that's kind of the one we all think about, right? This is after Yamaha introduced the cross-plane engine, which in its own right was a massive shift for the platform. And that's when it really became the R1 we know and love. This generation was still relatively raw compared to modern standards, but they've got tons of character and can be a decent option if you're trying to get into an R1 on a tighter budget. And if you have the stones to live with a 10 to 15-year-old superbike, it can be pretty sweet. But that being said, they're heavier, a little less refined, and they don't have the same level of electronics or chassis development as the new generations. And there's a reason why you don't see people really tracking or racing them that often, because the newer ones are just better. Realistically, for most people watching this video, you're gonna wanna shoot for 2015 or newer. That's when the R1 got a huge reset. It got a new frame, new electronics, a new 6-axis IMU, and an updated engine. And it's worth noting that this is nearly the same bike being sold today, except the new gen does have winglets and upgraded brakes, and the rather disappointing end to the controversial story arc from a few years back. Because I don't know if you guys remember, we all thought the R1 was going to be discontinued, and then Yamaha was like, nope, we must hold on to the R1 because of what it represents for the brand, new update coming soon. And then when it was released, it was just the same bike as before, but with winglets and better brakes. Pretty unexciting, although the brake upgrade was nearly essential if you plan on riding this bike as it was intended to be used. I don't think I've ever seen anyone with stock calipers on an R1 that's happy with it. The brakes just aren't that great. But on the bright side, being relatively unchanged for over a decade means these bikes are really easy to own if you're in the business of serious track day riding, modifying, or repairing an R1. There's a ton of information out there. Yamaha made this bike super easy for plug and play on riders who actually want to take their leader bike to the track. If you want the best balance of performance, price, and usability, a clean 2015 Plus R1 is really hard to beat. You're getting a modern superbike with proven reliability, tons of support, and a riding experience that hasn't really been surpassed in any meaningful way for most riders. And honestly, I've even thought about picking up an R1 and doing a proper 1000cc build for the track, just because it is so plug and play. And I've always thought, well, what if I added an extra 70 horsepower to my fun at the racetrack? Could I have faster lap times? And then I ultimately don't pull the trigger. Now, while the R1 tends to attract a more serious crowd compared to a 600, it's still a sport bike, so some of these have been ridden hard, crashed at the track, or modified to the previous owner's taste. So be sure to keep an eye out when you're shopping used. But a well-maintained, lightly used R1 is, for the most part, an incredible value. Now, some of you super squids out there might be familiar with the R1M. Now, that's kind of for the clout chasers among you. You're looking at S1000, Panigales, RSP4. Realistically, all the M really adds is a bunch of carbon fiber and semi-active electronic suspension. You really don't need that stuff if you're going to go properly fast on a racetrack, so in my opinion, go ahead and skip that, save the $10,000 price premium, and get a proper R1. So, you've got a proven platform, tons of support, and a bike that's been refined for over a decade. But what's it actually like to live with one? Owning a leader bike is never going to be cheap. Have you seen the prices for super courses and a 200 section at the rear? It's crazy. All this stuff's going to really add up when you've got 200 horsepower right underneath your ball sack. It's going to eat through consumables faster than a 120 horsepower middleweight. That's not going to change no matter what you buy. But compared to the alternatives, the R1 is about as painless as it gets. This is a Japanese superbike. Remember that at one point in time, that's what the Japanese did best. The engine is robust, proven, and incredibly strong when maintained properly. You're not dealing with a cutting-edge platform that gets serious changes or massive power gains every other year, which results in finicky growing pains. Parts are everywhere and the aftermarket support is massive. If you want to learn how to fix something or set it up for the track, there's a huge amount of information available to you. When you compare that to something like the Panigale or an RSV4, where parts can be expensive, dealer networks are smaller, and even minor issues can result in huge service bills, and it might not even be the actual knowledge base to build the bike into what you're trying to do, the R1 is just easier. It's not MT-07 levels of cheap, but it's definitely easier than the competition, and it still feels exotic. The R1 is one of the most popular platforms in club-level racing. The plug-and-play setup seems almost catered to racers by design, which kind of feeds into the whole R-bike ethos. Suspension setups are well documented and essential upgrades are widely discussed. You're able to follow proven recipes instead of reinventing the wheel. Plus, it comes with titanium headers from the factory. That's pretty sweet. Of course, there's downsides to any leader bike. Insurance can be brutal, it's physically demanding to ride, and it can sometimes feel impossible to leave first gear on the street. But as far as leader bikes go, the R1 really is a perfect balance between character and reliability. If I'm gonna make a claim like that, I guess I need evidence to back it up. On one side, you've got the cutting-edge, clout-demanding bikes. The BMW S1000RR, Ducati Panigale V4, and Aprilia RSV4 all come to mind. Even if the RSV4 is a bit of a pig and kind of a last-generation bike, it does make a biblical amount of power. These are bikes pushing the limits of what a production motorcycle can be. Each of them are all putting down well over 200 horsepower. And with more power, they also have way more advanced electronics, regular updates, and that exclusive air of exotic excellence. They're incredible machines, no doubt about it. And if I were to pick one, I'd probably pick a Panigale V4 if money was no object. But they also come with a certain level of commitment. They're more expensive up front, more expensive to maintain, and generally just more complicated to live with. And because they're always constantly evolving and changing and being supplanted by newer, faster, or more advanced iterations, if you want the best of the best, the cream of the crop, with no concern for diminishing returns or cost of ownership, these are the ones you look at. But if you want to actually own one that you can ride with abandon, they start to feel like overkill pretty damn quickly. Then you've got the more traditional Japanese competitors like the Honda Fireblade or the ZX-10R. Fireblade makes more power, but only in Europe. It's significantly detuned in the US. Plus, it's wildly expensive. It has like Ducati pricing on it. And it's a Honda with no cross-point engine. It's hard to make the strong case for it over the R1 in all honesty. The Fireblade is also an incredibly peaky motorcycle. The power band feels more like an R6, and I rode one of these on track and just didn't feel like I got along with it very well. That's just my take on it. The ZX-10R is a decently close competitor. It's still very much a classic inline-4 superbike. It's been refined and updated over time, but again, it doesn't have that same exotic appeal that the Yamaha CP4 has. Plus, you'd have to commit to Kawasaki ownership. Do you really want to do that? The ZX-10 is also quite snatchy and twitchy on track. It has very much an on-off throttle that I never could feel very comfortable with, having taken several sessions on a ZX-10R that I borrowed from my buddy at a CMRA event. And of course, you could always spring for the Gixxer Thal. Many people say that that's a wonderful track platform as well, but then you gotta be a Suzuki guy. You thought Kawasaki ownership was bad? The R1 manages to retain a sense of maturity that just can't be said for these other bikes, and that's really where it carves out its own place. It has an identity, character, and style that sets it apart from other Japanese bikes, but it accomplishes that without sacrificing reliability or ease of ownership. So it's sort of like the best of both worlds. Other bikes might win on paper or on social media, but the R1 does a good job winning out in real life. So who's this bike actually for? It's not for someone chasing the newest thing. It's not for someone who needs the most horsepower in the segment. It's not for someone who needs that European badge to feel validated in their purchase. But if you're a motorcyclist who wants to ride their bike hard without fear, who wants to spend half as much as someone with a Panigale V4S and get about 80% of the experience, you want to hold on to a piece of Yamaha history, maybe you have that draw from Valentino Rossi back in the day, maybe it's just the exhaust note that makes it for you, the R1 makes a lot of sense. It's for the rider who wants a proven platform over a flashy one. I think we can all agree that it's more valuable to be able to ride confidently than to be afraid to push your super expensive Italian bike. If you're less concerned about buying the best superbike and instead want that just has it all figured out, maybe the R1 is exactly what you're looking for. Thanks for making it to the end of today's video. If you want to learn more about what I think about the R1, we have a ton of videos in the back catalog from when I had one as a giveaway bike. I did one in 2020, and then I did one in 2023, an R1M and a regular one, so got some good experience on the bike. And oh yeah, speaking of giveaway motorcycles, if you want to support the channel, head over to yamity.co and learn about our membership options, how to gain access to our Discord server, and how to earn automatic entries for our giveaway bikes. Thanks again for watching today's video. I will catch you in the next one.